Derek and Maria Broaddus had just purchased their dream home in Westfield, New Jersey. It was a beautiful, sprawling house at 657 Boulevard, a place where they planned to raise their children and grow old together. But before they could even move in, the first letter arrived. The letter was handwritten in an eerie, old-fashioned script and addressed to the new owner. My grandfather watched this house in the 1920s, my father in the 1960s, and now it is my turn. I have been put in charge of watching and waiting for its second coming. Do you know the history of the house? Do you know what lies within the walls? The couple was terrified. Who was watching them? Why was this person obsessed with their home? They contacted the police, but there were no fingerprints on the letter, no clues, nothing to follow. More letters followed. I see you've brought young blood to the house. They will never be safe. I will know their names soon. Derek and Maria refused to move in. They hired private investigators, checked records, and even tested DNA from the letters. But no one could figure out who the watcher was. Some believed it was a jealous neighbor. Others speculated about a former owner with unfinished business. The letters never stopped. The house remained empty, unsold, haunted not by ghosts, but by an unknown, relentless human presence. To this day, the true identity of the watcher remains a mystery. In 1981, Dorothy Jane Scott, a 32-year-old single mother, began receiving disturbing phone calls from an anonymous stalker. The voice on the other end was deep and breathy, sometimes whispering obscene things, other times professing his undying love for her. He seemed to know everything about her, where she worked, what she wore, even when she was alone at home. One day, he left a chilling message. I have a surprise for you, Dorothy. On May 28th, after taking a coworker to the hospital, Dorothy disappeared from the parking lot. Her car was later found burning in an alley miles away. Then, the phone calls began again. Dorothy's mother received a call every week. The voice would say, I have her, she's mine, or simply breathe heavily before hanging up. Despite police tapping the phone, they could never trace the calls. Each one was too brief. 4 years later, in 1984, construction workers found Dorothy's skeletal remains in a remote field. Her cause of death was unknown. And the calls? They stopped immediately. The identity of her killer was never discovered. Story 3. A man named Frank was walking home late one night when he encountered someone that would haunt his dreams forever. It happened in Seattle in 2011 at around 2 a.m. The streets were nearly empty when Frank noticed a man standing on the opposite side of the street. The man was tall, thin, and dressed in a suit. But what was truly unsettling was his face. He had the widest, most unnatural grin Frank had ever seen. He wasn't just smiling. His face was stretched into a grotesque expression of joy. The man began moving toward Frank with exaggerated, dance-like steps as if he was performing for an invisible audience. Frank stopped walking. Then the man stopped too. For several minutes they stood still, staring at each other. Then suddenly, the smiling man began sprinting toward him at an impossible speed. Frank ran. He ran faster than he had ever run before, ducking into alleyways and cutting through parking lots, but no matter where he went, the smiling man followed. But he never made a sound, not a single footstep. Finally, Frank reached his apartment and locked the door behind him. He peered through the peephole, but there was nothing. The smiling man had vanished. To this day, he has no idea who or what he saw that night. Others have since reported seeing the same eerie figure, always grinning, always watching, and always chasing. Some believe he's not human. Some believe he's still out there.
Whispers in the walls. I never believed in ghosts. Not until I moved into that house. It was an old Victorian-style home, the kind that creaked even when no one was moving. The kind that always felt cold, no matter how high the heat was turned up. But the price was unbeatable, and as a freshly divorced woman looking for a fresh start, I convinced myself that its eerie charm was just that, charm. The first night, I barely slept. It wasn't the usual discomfort of a new place, it was something else. The silence wasn't silent. It was thick, heavy, filled with something unseen. As I lay in bed, wrapped in my blankets, I swore I could hear it. A whisper. At first, I thought it was the wind sneaking through the cracks in the old walls. But it wasn't outside. It was inside. And it was close. I turned on the lamp, heart hammering in my chest, scanning the dimly lit room. Nothing. Just the worn wallpaper peeling in the corners, the empty rocking chair in the corner. Had that been facing my bed before? I swallowed hard and told myself I was just being paranoid. I wasn't. By the second night, the whispers had become clearer. Not words, not yet. Just murmurs, hushed and hurried, coming from the walls, the ceiling, the floor beneath my bed. I pressed my ear against the cold plaster, holding my breath. Nothing. But the moment I stepped away, soft, skittering sounds like fingernails dragging along the wood. I barely slept. On the third night, I woke up to something worse. The sound of breathing. It was ragged, slow, but not my own. I lay frozen, my back to the empty side of the bed, the weight of something unseen pressing into the mattress. Then, the whisper. Get out. I lunged for the bedside lamp, but before my fingers found the switch, the mattress shifted as if someone had just stood up beside me. The light flickered on, flooding the room. Nothing. But the rocking chair. It was moving. I didn't stay in my bedroom after that. I moved to the couch in the living room, curling up under blankets, too afraid to sleep. My phone sat in my lap, my finger hovering over the call button to a friend, to anyone. But who would believe me? At 3:12 a.m., something new happened. A loud thud came from inside the walls. Then another. And another. Like something trapped inside was trying to get out. I covered my ears, shaking, whispering to myself, it's not real. It's not real. But then I saw it. The wallpaper. It was bulging. As if something beneath it was pressing outward. I grabbed my keys and ran out of the house in nothing but my pajama shorts and a hoodie. I sat in my car until morning, the lights on, engine running, watching my bedroom window. At exactly 4:04 a.m., the curtain moved. Like someone was standing behind it. Watching me. By daylight, I had made up my mind. I was leaving. I didn't care about breaking my lease or getting my deposit back. But before I could pack, curiosity got the better of me. I needed to know. I grabbed a knife from the kitchen and returned to the wall where I had seen the bulging. My hands were shaking as I pressed the blade against the wallpaper, slicing a long, jagged tear. And that's when I saw it. The eye. Wide, bloodshot, staring at me from inside the wall. I screamed, stumbling back as the hole in the wallpaper ripped open further, revealing a face. Rotten skin, lips curled into a silent, twisted grin. The thing inside the wall blinked. I ran. I never went back for my things. I never spoke to the landlord. I drove until I reached my sister's house 3 states away. Weeks later, I got a call from an unknown number. When I finally answered, there was no voice on the other end. Just a whisper. You shouldn't have looked.
The boy in the closet. I was 7 years old when I first saw him. It started the night we moved into our new house, a small, old place with creaky floors and a weird smell, like something had been wet for too long. My mom said it was just old house smells, but I didn't like it. My room was small, with a single bed against the wall, a dresser, and a closet. The closet door didn't close all the way. No matter how hard I pushed, it always crept back open a little. Mom said it was because the house was settling. That first night, I woke up thirsty. The house was so quiet, except for the usual creaks. But then I heard something different. A whisper? It was coming from the closet. I held my breath, listening, my tiny fingers gripping the blanket. The whispering stopped. Then, ever so slowly, the closet door creaked open an inch. I squeezed my eyes shut and pulled the blanket over my head. I told myself I was imagining things. I didn't sleep much that night. The next morning at breakfast, I told my mom. "There's a boy in my closet," I said. She smiled, stirring her coffee. "Oh? And what's his name?" I frowned. "I don't know." "Well, maybe he's just lonely," she said, not looking up from her phone. "You have a big imagination, sweetie." I wasn't imagining it. The next night, I made sure to close the closet door tightly before getting into bed. I even pushed my dresser against it. But at 3 a.m., I woke up again. A click. The sound of the dresser scraping against the floor. I froze. My heart pounded so loudly I thought it would burst out of my chest. Slowly, my eyes moved toward the closet. The door was open. The dresser had been moved. And standing inside, just barely visible in the darkness, a boy. He was my age. Pale. Dressed in old, torn clothes. His eyes were hollow, empty. I wanted to scream, but no sound came out. The boy lifted a finger to his lips. Shh. I bolted from my bed, screaming for my mom. She rushed in, flipping on the lights. But the boy was gone. The closet door was closed. The dresser was right where it had been before. "There was a boy," I cried. "He was in my closet." Mom sighed. "You had a nightmare, honey." "No. He was real." She walked over, pulled the closet door open wide. Nothing. Just my clothes and some boxes. I didn't sleep in that room again. I started sleeping on the couch. But the whispering didn't stop. Sometimes, at night, I heard it. "Come play with me." I never answered. One afternoon, while Mom was at work, I was watching TV when I heard something soft, barely there. Scratching. It was coming from inside the walls. I put my ear against the wall near my closet. Scritch. 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 Like nails dragging against wood. Then, a whisper. "Help me." I ran out of the house. That night, I begged Mom to let me sleep with her. I told her I was scared of my room, of the whispering. Finally, she sighed. "Fine. I'll sleep in your room with you tonight so you can see there's nothing there." I didn't want her to. I didn't want anyone in that room. But she did. And at 3 a.m., I woke up to her screaming. She was sitting up in my bed, staring at the closet. I flicked on the lamp just as she ran over and ripped open the door. Nothing. But the smell. It was horrible, like something rotting. Mom covered her mouth and nose. Then, her eyes fell on the back wall of the closet. The old wood looked strange, darker in one spot. She pressed her hand against it. The wood shifted. It wasn't a wall. It was a door. She grabbed my baseball bat from the corner and wedged it into the crack, prying the old wood apart. That's when we saw it. A small, hidden room. And inside, a pile of bones. Tiny bones. A child's bones. My mom grabbed me and ran out of the house. The police came. They told us the house used to belong to a man who had a son that had gone missing years ago. They suspected the father had locked him inside that tiny space, hidden behind the closet. He had never made it out. The house was abandoned after that. Sometimes, I wonder if someone else has moved in. If they hear the whispers,